Coming up on Look Today, well, the city of Saratoga Springs held a special meeting on affordable housing today. I've got details. And we've got updates on the Hadley Luzerne School District vote on their capital project. More on that coming up. And presentation on the interesting life of Katrina Trask took place in Lake George. I've got those details. It's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone, I'm Jay Hood Jackson, and this is Look Today. Tonight's program, I sit down with Samantha Bosshart. She's the Executive Director of the Saratoga Springs Preservation Foundation. She's here to talk about the recent demolition of 26 Caroline Street. That was a building that was severely damaged by fire. And I also sit down with Bob Turner. He's the chair of the Saratoga City Charter Review Commission. He's here to give us updates on the detailed process of reviewing our government. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties, but first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, the Saratoga City Council held a special meeting today on affordable housing in Saratoga Springs. Now, according to reports, if a person spends more than 30% of their income on living expenses, then they fall below the affordable living threshold. Now, organizations such as Habitat for Humanity are working on upcoming projects, and we spoke to Mayor Joanne Yepsen about initiatives concerning affordable housing.
How can we get 180 more units in the city limits so that we can accommodate young professionals, so we can accommodate the workforce who work in the local bars and restaurants? We are a hospitality community. We're a tourist community. We need to take care of our workforce. And we want to encourage people to start their families and businesses here. Yep. And the only reason they don't is always because housing is too expensive.
Well, you know, I was just doing the math. Maybe you were too. I think I spend over 30%. Interesting times we live in. All right, in other news, we have updates on the Hadley Luzerne Capital Project. Residents of the school district voted yesterday on whether to pass an $8.9 million project for infrastructure upgrades. Residents were able to cast their votes at the Stuart Townsend Elementary School. Well, the project passed 229 to 89. Half the project will be funded by a New York State grant. We spoke to Beecher Baker. He's the superintendent of the school district about what these funds will be used for.
We have a lot of other infrastructure needs. In our auditorium, the original seating in that auditorium from 1953. I foresee or would like to have air conditioning placed in the auditorium, make it more comfortable for seating when we have spring events, late spring events that can get very hot. And my ultimate goal is to run graduation again in our auditorium like it used to be in the early 70s is the last time we graduated a class in our auditorium.
Well, all right, switching from news to weather. Well, today saw a definite decline in temperatures. Went down into the low 30s, high 20s. Also, we can expect some snow later on tonight. So let's see how the week is shaping up. For a more detailed look at our weather, let's head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast. Back to the news. Well, here's an interesting story. The Lake George Regional Chamber of Commerce hosted a talk today titled The Fascinating Life of Katrina Trask. Now, the presentation was given by Betty Spinelli, who spoke about the life of Katrina Trask, who founded the Artist Retreat Yaddo in Saratoga Springs. Well, we spoke to Betty about the presentation.
Well, this is about Katrina Trask, and I first became interested in Katrina years ago when I visited Yaddo. And then when I moved to Lake George, I found out about her Lake George connections, decided to do a little research, and found out that while most people understand the popular lore about Katrina, they don't really know her true essence.
Wow, it's a fascinating story, by the way. You should look into it. All right, in other news, we have some updates on the upcoming New Year's celebration, first night in Saratoga. Now, the event, as you know, is hosted by the Saratoga Arts Council. However, it is facilitated by volunteers. They need volunteers. We spoke to Alex Jones. She's the first night coordinator.
We still need volunteers for First Night Saratoga this year. We are 91% full, but this is your last chance to get out there and support your local arts organization. If you're a volunteer, you have to come to one training session, and then you pick a slot. You can do the early shift, the 6 to 9 p.m., or the 9 p.m. to midnight. You get a free button to enjoy the rest of the night during that time, and you also get a discount to dinner, $5 dinner at the Presbyterian New England Congregational Church.
That's great. If any of you know that event, it's huge. People are all over the place that night. So please, if you can volunteer, give them a call. All right, up next, I sit down with Samantha Bosshart. She's the executive director of the Saratoga Springs Preservation Foundation. She's here to talk about the recent demolition of the 26 Caroline Street building that was severely damaged by fire on Thanksgiving. Plus, I also sit down with Bob Turner. Now, he's the chair of the Saratoga City Charter Review Commission. He's here to give us an update on the very detailed process that committee's going through in reviewing our government. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea, how about join us for an interview? Give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. I've got a couple of lookouts tonight. On Monday, I told you that the United Methodist Church in Glens Falls needs volunteers for their Christmas morning breakfast. It's the 9th annual, and what they do is at the church, they'll offer breakfast to anybody who wants to come in, and it gives people a chance to start with a great breakfast on a great day. So please, if you can volunteer, the phone number is 538-2426. 538-2426. Only takes a couple of hours, and like I said, it gives everyone a chance to have a great start to a great day. I also want to do a look out to Chuck Voskanyan. Chuck is a friend of mine, an audio engineer and a historian about rock music. And once a month, he's got a group called the Rockman Record Club, and they present an album that sort of changed history, and they dissect it and get into it. Last night it was Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin. A bunch of people showed up, and it was a lot of fun. So, Chuck, keep that up. In January, they'll be doing another one, and I'll let you know about that. And last but not least, John Baker, the owner of Gaffney's, has sold Gaffney's. So tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, the public is invited to come in, say goodbye to the old regime, and hello to the new one. These things are always hard, and as you know, John is an amazing guy, and the whole staff at Gaffney's is terrific. And so here's a chance to go over, raise a glass, and wish John well. Gaffney's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Okay, that's it. Tonight on Look TV, it's a Saratoga City Council meeting. And don't forget, tune in tomorrow night for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everyone.